Here's the question. Why do some farms and seafood businesses have loyal customers who drive across town to buy from them? Is it because their tomatoes are bigger? Are their shrimp fresher? Are their prices lower? Yes, consumers buy products, but they connect with people. Consumers increasingly want to know who grew their food, where did it come from, how was it produced, and why that matters to support local agriculture and seafood producers. Every single operation has a story, and it's important that consumers understand that. A farmer that I visited this summer told me that their farm was nothing special, but I want y'all to understand that every operation has a story that needs to be shared. When consumers are deciding which farms, ranches, fisheries, and operations that they want to support, they look for 4 things. Authenticity, being genuine with your customers and your consumers. Transparency, being open and honest about your production and your process. Trust, building those trusting relationships between you and your consumers, which can be built by the first 2 parts of this. And local connections. If a consumer feels like they have a connection with you, they're more likely to wait for a farmer's market or a farm product to be available rather than going to a grocery store. So why is it important to share your story? The bottom line is this. If you don't tell your story, someone else will, and they will tell it wrong. Your stories provide views into the lives of producers. It shows consumers freshness, accountability, community impact, and most of all, it gives consumers a connection to you as their farmer. I would like you to try something for a minute. Pause the video to consider the question below. If a random consumer had 15 seconds to describe your operation, what would they say? Now think about this. Is that the message you want consumers to think about you? Is the message accurate? It is time to develop your story so that the message that your consumers hear is accurate and yours. Let's start with what makes a good story. First off, authenticity. Consider what is real about your operation. Consumers want to be able to know what goes into their food. What is your day-to-day tasks? Some things that you think are basic and normal, but your consumers have never heard of or seen. Secondly, values. A good question to ask yourself is this. Why do I do what I do? What is your purpose behind your operation? What drives you to continue through the tough times? Speaking of tough times, think about the challenges that you face. This goes back to authenticity. We are never perfect. Why would we try to bamboozle our consumers into thinking that we are? A good story usually has some sort of obstacle. Consider what obstacles that you have overcome. Lastly, community. How are you connected to Alabama? Did you begin here or did Alabama draw you in? How are you a part of this community? A consumer wants to be able to relate to you, and a great way to express that is to show them how you are connected to your community. Now that we know what makes a good story, let's start putting together your story. To make this simpler, we'll start with 4 building blocks to go off of. To help find your why, think about these questions. Why did you start farming or fishing? Why do you continue to do it? What motivates you? Some examples can be family tradition, stewardship of the land, feeding communities, supporting local food systems. Next, your people. You need to talk about what people are involved in your operation, such as family involvement, crew members, generations on the farm, fishing partners, employees. People connect with people. You also need to share your place. Talk about your Alabama roots, your community, your farm history, the waters you fish, or your unique growing conditions. Consumers often want a sense of place. Finally, your practices. Highlight your sustainability efforts, how you treat your animals, your harvest methods, conservation efforts, food safety standards, and quality practices. Focus on explaining your practices as simply as possible, rather than using industry jargon. That's an important part. Now that we have all the building blocks, let's build your story. Pause the video now to write 1 sentence for each of these categories. Don't overthink it. This is not meant to stress you out. It's only meant to make you start to think about your story to help you understand the next section. Great job. Now you have the foundation of your story. Now that you have your foundation, we can figure out how to share your story. Many of you may already have a brand, but those who do not, here's a simple formula for creating your brand based on your story. Branding should align with your story to make it easier to share. You start with who you are, then what you do, and follow those up with why it should matter to the consumer. Let's look at an example. Here's our example. We are a third-generation Alabama shrimping family providing Gulf seafood while preserving a way of life that has supported our community for decades. To break it down, the who we are is a third-generation Alabama fisherman. The what we do is shrimping and providing Gulf seafood. And why it matters is because it is preserving a way of life and supporting the community. This version of our story is the one-sentence story. Every producer should have 3 versions of their story. The one-sentence story, which can be used for quick introductions, interviews, and elevator pitches. The short story is best used in social media bios, website about sections, and market signage. The full story is used in media interviews, speaking opportunities, and website content. All 3 of these are equally important to be able to share your story with consumers. When you tell your story, here are some mistakes that people make. It is very important to avoid these small mistakes because they can confuse and frustrate the consumer, leading with technical details or long histories without a purpose. Don't go telling them about some crazy random great aunt twice removed. Also, try not to use industry jargon. Most people do not know what it means that the pH of your soil is at 7.0. Most of all, do not only talk about your products. Your consumers want to know you. Yes, it is important to know what your farm grows, but people also want to hear about you as a person. When you're sharing your story, remember that. Instead of those, remember these 3 points. Focus on your people, focus on your purpose, focus on your impact. Once you have your story and your brand honed in, what do you do next? You share it everywhere. The most crucial places to include your story are as follows: social media, your website, farmers markets and similar events, and retail and wholesale relationships. Your social media is the quickest way for people to see you and interact with you. Do not be afraid to post. It is the easiest and cheapest way to get your farm seen. Your website is an extension of you. It is a great place to put an extended version of your story. If you attend farmers markets, there is no reason that you should not be networking and talking to people. I know that farmers markets days can be crazy and chaotic, but if you have a chance to interact with people, they are more likely to come back to your stand specifically. It is hard to stand out in a farmers market if you're alongside others who are selling similar, if not the same products as you. So share your story and connect with your customers. When you are connected with retail or wholesale relationships, if you are able to share your story with them, it helps them to remember you. You can connect and be someone who they know that they can depend upon because you are not just a name on a page. You are a farm with a story. There are many different ways for you to get started. Here are some easy ways to get kick-started. Start posting on social media. There is no reason to not get started ASAP. If you don't know anything about social media at all, we have some things to help. Access our webinar library that is free to all members and watch the webinar for social media best practices or our Facebook webinar. If you feel like you don't have good enough content to post, you can access our photography webinar and you will be set to go. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be there. Thank you so much for watching, and remember this. If you don't tell your story, someone else will, and they will tell it wrong. So start sharing your story today. Hopefully I was able to help you get a head start on crafting your story. Thanks for listening.